Hi guys, welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna talk about the RSF Gambit. This is a really interesting line. You can create many tricky positions and also you can play for some traps in this line. Something good is that you don't need any special order of the moves from black. Just when they play normal development, basically move number 4, you're already playing the RSF Gambit. It's a position you will understand and you will know after watching the video. And as you will see, there are many traps over there, so it's very easy for black to get into one of them. So, well, without further delay, let's get into how to play the RSF Gambit. So we will play e4, and then when our opponent plays e5, we're gonna play bishop's opening bishop c4. In this position, the main line, the most common and logical move for black is going to be knight f6, and then we have this move, very tricky, d4. At this point, black can play some lines, but actually the good one is going to be e takes d4. They can try other things, but we will see they are not really so good. For example, d6 is already getting into a trick here. We can play d takes e5, d takes e5. The king is defending the queen, is also defending the pawn on f7. So as you can already imagine, we can deflect the king by playing bishop takes f7. This line is not really getting a queen up, but it's going to be getting some advantage, probably like a pawn. So let's see, bishop takes f7. They can just play a little surprisingly king takes f7, because even when we can take the queen on d8, they can play bishop before check, discovered, and now they're getting the queen back. Well, at this point we can play queen d2, and when they take the queen, we take with the knight, so we guard the pawn on e4. And in this position, we are clearly better. We have a pawn up. We did not get the queen, but this is still a consistent advantage, probably enough to win the game. So this is already good for white. So d6 is not working. Another move black can try here is going to be knight c6. But, well, one more time, this is very well for white. Here we can play d5. And then we have to go back to e7. Our pawn is threatened here, so we can just play knight c3. This position, as you can imagine, is much better for white. We are clearly better here. And finally, the other line after d4 is going to be knight takes e4. And this is, again, not so good. We can just take the pawn on e5. The material is equal. And the big problem for black in this position is the knight on e4 is unprotected. It's exposed. So we are better here. There are some threats like queen d5 or bishop takes f7, followed by queen d5 with a fork. So yeah, this position is much better. For example, if they play bishop c5, you can take here already, and after king takes f7 you check, and after king f8 you capture. And well, the engine says white is much better, I mean decisive advantage here for white. So well, this line is good. And also after d takes e5, the best move for black in this position is going to be queen h4, but it's not enough. After bishop e3 we are defending very well, and white is much better either way. So after d4, the main line, the best move for black is going to be e takes d4, and at this point we are going to play knight f3, and here we are officially playing Urusov Gambit after this position. One more time, black has some options, but probably the best and the most normal move is going to be knight c6. However, we should take a look at some other lines. For example, black can play here knight takes e4, and this is going to be really tricky. We have some interesting ideas in this variation. We're going to capture the pawn on d4. We're attacking the knight, so the knight must retreat to d6 or f6. The two lines are really interesting. So let's say black plays knight d6, we can just castle here, and they cannot develop the bishop because they are losing the pawn on g7. So they might try queen f6, for example, and here there's a nice continuation. We can play rook e1 check, and when they block bishop e7, there is a really nice tactic move for white. I will say it is this idea: rook takes e7, and if the king takes, we have a pin by playing bishop g5. So they need to capture with the queen. We capture on g7. The rook is going to be threatened. They need to play rook f8. And well, we're not going to continue with the line after this. This position is decisive advantage for white, even when we have the exchange down here, there is a big difference in the development for white and the development for black. In the next 3 or 4 moves, we are playing knight c3, bishop somewhere over here, and rook e1. Right now, our bishop is going to be threatened, so we should move it to d3. But in the next 3 moves, we are developing very quickly. There are really good squares and really good threats with our minor pieces. However, black cannot do the same. The development of the bishop is really hard to get, and also the king is still in the center. And also, as we develop, we will be threatening things as we develop our pieces. So we are getting tempi with our development. Also, when the knight goes to c3, we are playing knight d5, and also the rook on e1 is going to be threatening things. So this position, as I was saying, is decisive advantage for white, even when we have material down. So in this position, after knight f3, you know, knight takes e4, queen takes d4, we saw knight d6. The other line is knight f6. And well, here we are going to continue with a normal development, bishop g5. They can try bishop e7, we can play knight c3, they can castle, and then we castle queenside. Up to now it's a normal position with a pawn down, but observe that all white pieces are making sense here. We have a lot of activity for only one pawn down, as they still have development problems over here. Black can try here knight c6, and then we go to the king side. Queen h4, we are preparing some tricky ideas here. And after d6, there is this move bishop d3. The threat is removing the defender to mate on a7. There are 2 ways to defend, g6 or a6. There is a miniature that continued with a6, but after g6, I can tell you that you can play rook h1, and you're removing the defender over here, and you're capturing the knight. So the pressure over the diagonal and the file is just too much. Decisive advantage for white here, according to engines. Well, the other line when we play bishop d3 is going to be h6, and here, well, as you can imagine, we are going to start with a decisive and really strong attack. We are going to start sacrificing pieces and trying to win. The attack is actually a winning attack. So we can play here bishop takes h6, and after pawn takes bishop, we capture the pawn on a6, and this is just winning for white. There are too many problems. The idea is that we are playing at g5, but also the rook is getting involved over the d file sometimes, or maybe over the e file, and this is really hard to stop. I mean, black cannot do too much to stop those ideas. Another threat here is knight d5, where we are removing the defender of the square h7, and again, there's not too much black can do to stop that. In the miniature, I mean, black played knight b4, which is trying to get the bishop on d3, and is also controlling d5, so we cannot play knight there. However, we can still play knight g5, involve more pieces in the attack. They can still take the bishop, but, well, now we don't have the bishop, but we have the rook over there. So rook takes d3, they can play bishop f5, developing, attacking, but also defending with the bishop. These squares, however, it's not enough. We can just play rook g3, many threats. In the game, I mean, black played bishop g6, that seems to defend everything more or less fine. However, it's not going to be like that. Here it is white to move. There's a beautiful tactic move. I will say it very soon, but I think it's going to be a really good tactics training if you pause the video and you try to find the winning move here for white. I will say it right now. The move white can play, just winning the game almost immediately, is going to be this fantastic idea. Knight e6, and then we are threatening checkmate here on g7, but also we are getting the queen on d8, and they cannot really capture because then we are removing that bishop, which is the only piece stopping our major pieces over the g file, and it's going to be winning. So after f takes e6, we just capture here, and then we mate on g7. So that was the line with knight takes e4. Our options here are bishop c5, but then, well, you can just castle, and after d6, you can just play a very typical move for this kind of lines, c3, just inviting black to take so you can continue your development, and if they don't take, you're just getting a really good center. They can try d takes e3, and then there's this move I really like, b4, where the bishop will need to go back, because if they take that pawn, we can play queen b3, and then we are taking the bishop, we are taking f7, and this position is clearly better for white. So bishop c5 is not really a problem. The other line is bishop b4, and then we can just play c3. There might be a trade here, and then the bishop can go to c5. However, here we have e5. Now he has some trouble with the knight on f6. The only move for black in this position to stay in the game and keep with a healthy and more or less equal position is going to be d5. So if black doesn't play d5, you're just going to be much better. So d5, and we can just take the knight, they take the bishop, we give a check because we don't want to trade queens, they can play bishop e6, and then we can capture this pawn on g7. This position is very unclear. We cannot say white is better here because we are not. It's just a dynamic position, the kind of positions a Gambit player will enjoy. So there's not too much we can say, just unclear game, tactic position, but also remember this is assuming black found the best moves during the line. Well, after knight f3, the main line, as I was saying, is going to be knight c6. Here we are just going to play this move castling, and the best move for black is going to be knight takes c4. So they need to take this pawn. If they don't take it, you will have a really nice and probably better position. So they need to play knight takes c4, which is hard to play if you're not familiar with the position, because when you take that pawn, you're opening the file and the king is in the center, and you still need to play some moves before you can actually castle here. However, that's the best move for black, knight takes e4, and here we can play rook e1. They need to play d5, they are defending, and here there is a really nice move for white. Observe this idea. Bishop takes d5. The idea is that after queen takes d5, both pieces controlling c3 are pinned. Like the pawn is pinned and the knight is pinned. So we can just play here knight c3, and then we are attacking the queen and we are attacking the knight at the same time. Probably one of the best moves for black here is going to be queen a5. You can just take that knight in the center. They should play here bishop e7, so they block the file and they can castle very soon. There's this move provoking a little bishop g5. They shouldn't capture. If they do, they are going to be in trouble over the file. So bishop g5 is fine. Black needs to castle here. We can trade on e7 and we can capture on d4. This position is equal. One more time, remember black needed to find many best moves during the line to get here, and even if they do that, they don't have any advantage. It's still an equal mid game, anyone can win. So it's a really hard way for black players to get here. Many tricky lines, many mines in the way to actually be able to get here. Well, if you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. If you want to learn how to play Ponciani opening, it's another really tricky opening for white, check out this interesting video over here. I'm sure you will enjoy it and it will help you a lot. Thank you so much guys, like, subscribe, see you on the next.